Black CEO's son goes incognito at his inherited company. The rain fell softly as Marcus Johnson stood alone at his father's grave. Marcus was 32 years old. He never thought he would own Pinnacle Tech so soon. His father, William Johnson, had built the company from nothing. William was one of the most respected black business leaders in the country. Now, just days after the funeral, Marcus held the papers that made him the new owner. "I don't know if I can do this, Dad," Marcus said quietly. To the grave. The board members and his father's assistant waited in the car nearby. They were already talking about the company's future. Marcus had spent the last 5 years building his own small company far away. He had always tried to step out of his father's shadow. They had fought about this many times. William wanted Marcus to join Pinnacle, but Marcus wanted to make his own path. Everything was different now. As Marcus walked back to the car, he made a choice. Before taking control officially, he would see Pinnacle from the inside, in a way his father never could. He would go undercover as a new worker and learn the truth about the company he was about to lead. "Tell the board I need 2 weeks before I make any decisions," he told Janet, his father's longtime assistant. "And please keep quiet about me coming back for now." Janet nodded, looking worried. "Your father always said you were smarter than him," she said softly. "He would trust what you decide to do." 3 days later, Marcus Jenkins, not Johnson, started his first day at Pinnacle Tech as a new junior programmer in the innovation department. The security guard barely looked at Marcus's temporary ID badge as he entered Pinnacle's shiny main building. With his beard grown out and glasses he didn't need, Marcus looked different enough from the few photos of William Johnson's son that had appeared in business magazines. "You'll be on the 14th floor," the front desk person said, giving him a welcome folder. "Robert Maxwell's department. He runs a tight ship." Marcus knew the name. Robert Maxwell was his father's rising star, the manager who had made department work triple in just 18 months. The board spoke very highly of him. On paper, he was brilliant. When the elevator doors opened on the 14th floor, Marcus saw an open workspace filled with busy people. Programmers hunched over keyboards, their faces lit by computer screens. "Jenkins!" A sharp voice cut through the noise. "You're 3 minutes late." A tall man with slicked back hair and an expensive suit walked up to him. Unlike the casual clothes of the programmers, Maxwell looked like he belonged in a meeting room with executives. "Sorry, sir. First day. Just finding my way around," Marcus replied, keeping his voice normal. Maxwell's eyes narrowed. "At Pinnacle, we value being on time. William Johnson built this company on discipline." He looked Marcus up and down. "You don't look like much, but HR says your coding tests were very good. Don't make me sorry I hired you." Marcus bit his tongue. "Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Your desk is over there. Diane will help you get started. I expect a report on your assigned project by the end of today." Maxwell turned and walked away, stopping to criticize another worker's efforts loudly enough for everyone to hear. Diane, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, gave Marcus a kind smile. "Don't worry about Robert. He's intense, but he gets results." She lowered her voice. "Ever since Mr. Johnson died, he's been worse. Trying to impress the board, I think. People say he wants the CEO job." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Really? What about Johnson's son?" Diane shrugged. "Some rich kid who never worked here? Maxwell tells everyone the son doesn't know anything about running Pinnacle. Says the board would be crazy to let him take over." Marcus followed Diane to his desk, his mind racing. This undercover mission might show him more than he expected. By the end of his first week, Marcus had learned more about Pinnacle and Robert Maxwell than he had in years of occasional talks with his father. Maxwell's impressive results came through fear and control. Workers put in extra hours without pay, afraid of being publicly shamed or fired. 2 talented programmers had quit during Marcus's first week alone. What bothered Marcus most was how Maxwell took credit for his team's good ideas while blaming them for any problems. In the break room, Marcus started talking with Elijah, one of the senior programmers who had worked at Pinnacle for over 10 years. "It wasn't always like this," Elijah said, looking around to make sure Maxwell wasn't nearby. William Johnson cared about people. He knew everyone's names, asked about their families. The company feeling changed about 2 years ago when Maxwell started working here. Why didn't anyone tell Johnson what was happening? Marcus asked. Elijah sighed. People tried, but Maxwell was smart. He had good numbers to show the board, and he acted different when Johnson was around. Friendly, supportive. Some of us thought Johnson was getting sick before it was announced. He wasn't as involved in daily work. Marcus nodded, remembering how his father had kept his illness private as long as possible. The thought that his father's life work was being damaged made him angry. That afternoon, Maxwell called Marcus into his office. Jenkins, your code is good, but your attitude needs work. You ask too many questions. I'm trying to understand the company better, Marcus replied. Maxwell leaned back in his chair, his father's chair, Marcus noticed with annoyance. Let me give you some advice. Pinnacle is changing. The old man had his way of doing things, but the future belongs to people who deliver results, not those who waste time with team building and babying workers. That seems short-sighted, Marcus said before he could stop himself. Losing good workers costs money. Maxwell's face hardened. Watch yourself, Jenkins. I've built this department into what it is today. When I'm running this company, dead weight gets cut. He smiled coldly. Speaking of which, I'm reviewing staff this weekend. Make sure your project is finished or Monday might be bad for you. Marcus left the office, he passed Janet in the hallway. Her eyes widened when she saw him, but Marcus gave a small shake of his head. She quickly acted normal and kept walking, but not before slipping a small note into his hand as they passed each other. The note simply said, Board meeting Tuesday. They're voting on temporary CEO. Maxwell has support. Marcus had seen enough. It was time to reveal who he really was, but first he needed proof. Black CEO's son goes incognito at his inherited company. Part 2. The weekend gave Marcus the perfect chance to find evidence. With his programmer access, he could look at the company files remotely. He spent hours going through everything he could find about Robert Maxwell. What Marcus found made him angry. Maxwell had been taking credit for other people's work while hiding problems from the board. He changed project data to make his results look better than they really were. He also kept complaints from reaching William Johnson when he was alive. The worst thing Marcus found was emails showing Maxwell had stopped a worker's complaint about bad treatment from ever reaching his father. That worker had quit soon after filing the complaint. Dad would never have let this happen if he knew, Marcus said to himself as he saved copies of all the evidence. On Monday morning, Marcus got to the office early. He found Elijah already at his desk, looking very tired. Long night? Marcus asked. Maxwell made us finish the Henderson project by today. Most of the team was here until midnight, Elijah said with a big yawn. But he'll tell everyone it was because of his great leadership. Just then, Maxwell walked in looking fresh and confident. Jenkins, my office now. Once they were inside the office, Maxwell didn't bother to sit down. I've looked at your work. It's not good enough. Clean out your desk by noon. Marcus smiled for the first time since he started working there. Actually, Robert, I don't think I will. Maxwell's eyes narrowed. Security can take you out now if you prefer. Before you do that, Marcus said, you should know that I spent the weekend looking at some very interesting files. He took off his glasses. And I think the board will want to see what I found. Slowly, Maxwell began to recognize him. You're Marcus Johnson, he confirmed, standing up straight. Yes, I'm William Johnson's son. The color drained from Maxwell's face. This is some kind of joke. No joke. I've been watching how you treat the people who make this company successful. I've seen how you take credit for their work while making everyone miserable. My father would be very upset. Maxwell recovered quickly, his shock turning to calculation. The board already supports me. They know you have no experience here. Whatever you think you found, it won't matter. I wouldn't be so sure. Marcus replied. Janet has changed the board meeting to this afternoon instead of tomorrow. I think they'll want to hear what I have to say and see what I've found. For the first time, Maxwell looked uncertain. 2 hours later, Marcus sat in a small conference room with Janet preparing for the board meeting. You look more like your father every day, Janet said with a sad smile. Especially now without that awful beard. Marcus laughed. It itched like crazy anyway. His face turned serious. Janet, how did things get so bad with Maxwell? Dad always had good judgment about people. Janet sighed. Robert was different around your father. Very charming. Very respectful. But as your father got sicker and wasn't in the office as much, Robert showed his true colors. By the time people realized what was happening, your father was too ill to handle it. Marcus nodded, understanding better now. Well, that ends today. Janet looked worried. Be careful, Marcus. Robert has spent months building relationships with the board. Some members think very highly of him. Let them see the real Robert Maxwell, Marcus said, holding up the flash drive with all his evidence. The boardroom fell silent as Marcus finished showing what he had found. He had changed into a suit that morning, stored in his car for this moment, and now stood confidently at the head of the table where his father had sat for so many years. These records show Maxwell changing data, taking credit for team achievements, and creating a terrible work environment that has directly caused at least 12 good employees to quit in the past year alone, Marcus concluded. Robert Maxwell sat stiffly in his chair. His earlier confidence was gone as board members looked through copies of the evidence Marcus had given them. Mr. Maxwell, what do you have to say about these accusations? Asked Gloria Chen, the longest-serving board member and his father's trusted advisor. Maxwell tried desperately to save himself. These documents could be fake. Johnson has reasons to make me look bad. He has no experience with this company. That's where you're wrong. Marcus interrupted. I spent the past week experiencing exactly how you run your department. I've talked with dozens of employees, many who worked with my father for years, and while I built my own company, my father and I talked regularly about Pinnacle's operations and future. Marcus walked around the table, looking each board member in the eye. My father built Pinnacle on good ideas, honesty, and respect for every employee. That's the legacy I plan to continue. Gloria Chen nodded slowly. William always said his son would know what to do when the time came. I believe he was right. She looked at Maxwell. Robert, please wait outside while the board discusses this matter. As Maxwell left, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Marcus remained standing. I don't just want to keep what my father built, he told the board. I want to grow it. But growth doesn't come from fear or manipulation. It comes from empowering the smart people we employ and creating a place where new ideas can grow. The vote was unanimous. Marcus Johnson would become CEO immediately. Later that afternoon, Marcus stood before the employees of the 14th floor. Many looked at him with uncertainty. Some of you may recognize me from last week. Though I looked a bit different, he began with a smile, pointing to his now clean-shaven face. I'm Marcus Johnson, William Johnson's son, and as of today, I'm also the CEO of Pinnacle Technologies. Whispers spread through the crowd. Elijah's eyes widened as he recognized Marcus. Robert Maxwell is no longer with the company, Marcus continued. And my first act as CEO is to announce some changes. First, we're starting a strict no-overtime policy for the next 2 weeks. Everyone needs a break. The surprise on their faces was clear. Second, I'll be meeting with each department to hear your ideas directly. Pinnacle was built on innovation, and that comes from all of you, not just management. As Marcus continued talking about his plans, he noticed Janet standing at the back of the room with a proud smile on her face. She gave him a small nod that said everything his father would have approved. That evening, as everyone left for the day, Marcus sat in his father's office, his office now, looking at the photo of them together that still sat on the desk. Think I understand now, Dad, he said quietly. It's not just about building technology, it's about building people. Outside the window, the city lights began to shine in the evening darkness. Pinnacle Technologies would honor William Johnson's legacy, but it would also create a new path forward, one that Marcus would shape through his own leadership, using the lessons from his week undercover. The next morning, Marcus arrived early. He wanted to be there to greet employees as they came in. The atmosphere already felt different. People seemed less stressed, more hopeful. Elijah approached him with a smile. So, was I part of your test? All those questions you asked me in the break room? Marcus shook his head. Not a test. I was truly trying to understand what was happening here. You helped me see the real picture. What happens now? Elijah asked. Maxwell had his problems, but he did push us to deliver results. Results matter, Marcus agreed. But how we get them matters just as much. My father understood that. I want to restore the culture he created, while still driving innovation and growth. Elijah nodded thoughtfully. The team will support you, but there are some who were loyal to Maxwell. They'll have a chance to show they can work in the new pinnacle, Marcus said. Everyone deserves that chance. As more employees arrived, Marcus continued to introduce himself and listen to their concerns and ideas. By lunchtime, he had filled a notebook with potential improvements. In the afternoon, he called his first company-wide meeting. Standing on a small stage in the main auditorium, he faced hundreds of curious faces. Many of you didn't know William Johnson personally, he began, but you felt his influence in how this company operated. Over the past 2 years, that culture began to change. Today, we start bringing it back, but with a vision for the future too. Marcus then outlined his plan for the company: more transparent communication, recognition for innovation, and a healthier work-life balance, but also ambitious goals for growth and new products. As the meeting ended and people filed out, a sense of cautious optimism filled the room. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but it had begun. Back in his office, Marcus looked at his father's photo again. "This is just the beginning, Dad," he said. "Watch what we do next." Black CEO's son goes incognito at his inherited company. Part 3. 1 month had passed since Marcus Johnson took over as CEO of Pinnacle Technologies. The changes were already visible. People smiled more in the hallways. The lights no longer burned, late into the night as workers rushed to meet impossible deadlines. But not everything was easy. Marcus sat in his office reviewing the quarterly reports. The numbers weren't bad, but they weren't great either. Robert Maxwell had pushed for short-term gains that made the previous quarter look amazing. Now they were feeling the effects of his rushed approach. A knock came at the door, and Janet entered with a worried look on her face. "The executive team is waiting in the conference room," she said, "and they don't look happy." Marcus nodded. They saw the same reports I did. Time to face the music. As Marcus entered the conference room, 5 serious faces turned to look at him. These were his father's most trusted executives, except for one new face, Lisa Chen, who had been hired to replace Maxwell as head of innovation. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus said, taking his seat at the head of the table. "I know you've reviewed the quarterly numbers." "They're concerning," said Thomas Whitfield, the chief financial officer. "Profits are down 15% from last quarter." "Not just profits," added Richard Dawson, head of marketing. "Our new product launch is behind schedule. The market is getting impatient." Marcus listened as each executive voiced their concerns. When they finished, the room fell silent, waiting for his response. "You're right to be worried," Marcus said finally. "But let's be clear about something. Those amazing numbers from last quarter, they came at a cost. Burned out employees, rushed quality checks. Maxwell's approach was like running a marathon at sprint speed. It looks impressive until you collapse." He stood up and walked to the whiteboard. "The way I see it, we have 2 options. We can go back to Maxwell's methods, push everyone to the breaking point, focus only on short-term gains, or we can rebuild properly." "The board expects results," Thomas reminded him. "They gave you their support, but that won't last forever." "I'm well aware," Marcus replied, "which is why I called this meeting. I need your help to find a balance, one that respects our people but still delivers strong results." Lisa Chen, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "In my first month here, I've seen incredible talent that's been held back. People were afraid to suggest new ideas under Maxwell because he would take credit or shut them down. If we can unleash that creativity, we might find solutions we haven't considered. Marcus smiled at her. Exactly. And that's where each of you comes in. I need your experience and wisdom to guide these changes. My father trusted you for a reason. The mood in the room shifted slightly. These people had respected William Johnson deeply. What do you propose? Asked Maria Gonzalez, head of operations. A 90-day plan, Marcus answered. We stabilize operations, rebuild team morale, and launch one innovative project that showcases our best work. Not 5 rushed projects, one excellent one. For the next 2 hours, they worked together to develop the plan. By the end, even Thomas seemed cautiously optimistic. It's a risk, he admitted. But so is continuing on our current path. As the executives filed out, Marcus called Lisa back. A moment, please. When they were alone, he asked, how is the team adjusting? Honestly, they're still recovering from Maxwell's leadership. Some are thriving with the new freedom, but others seem lost without constant direction. Lisa paused. There's something else. Maxwell has been calling some of the senior developers, trying to get them to join him at his new venture. Marcus frowned. I'm not surprised. He won't give up easily. No, Lisa agreed. And there's a rumor he's telling potential investors that Pinnacle is failing under your leadership, using these quarterly numbers as proof. Marcus nodded slowly. Then we'll just have to prove him wrong. The following week, Marcus called an all-hands meeting. Every employee gathered in the main auditorium, curious about the announcement. Marcus took the stage, looking confident despite the challenges he faced. I want to talk honestly about where we are as a company, he began. Our recent numbers aren't what we hoped for. I know that's created some uncertainty. A murmur ran through the crowd. Most companies didn't share bad news so openly. But I'm not worried, Marcus continued. Because I see something the numbers don't show yet. I see a team of brilliant people who finally have the freedom to do their best work. Today, I want to announce a new initiative called Pinnacle Rising. He explained the program. Every employee could submit ideas for innovation, with the top concepts receiving dedicated teams and resources. It wasn't just about products. Ideas for improving company processes or culture were also welcome. This is your chance to shape Pinnacle's future, Marcus said. My father built this company on the belief that good ideas can come from anywhere. It's time we return to that principle. As the meeting ended, the energy in the room was electric. People formed small groups already discussing possibilities. Elijah approached Marcus as he stepped off the stage. Bold move, he said. Maxwell would have just demanded better numbers and threatened to fire people. Maxwell's way is why we're in this position, Marcus replied. We need something different. Speaking of Maxwell, Elijah lowered his voice. He offered me a job yesterday, double my current salary. Marcus felt a flash of concern. And Elijah smiled. I turned him down, told him I'd rather be part of rebuilding something good than helping him tear down another company. He paused. But not everyone will make the same choice. He's targeting your best people. Let him try, Marcus said. People who only care about money will go. Those who care about more than that will stay. But as he walked back to his office, Marcus knew the challenge ahead was significant. Maxwell wasn't just a fired employee, he was becoming an active threat. 2 weeks later, the submissions for Pinnacle Rising closed with over 300 ideas from employees at all levels. Marcus, Lisa, and a small committee spent days reviewing them. This one, Marcus said, pointing to a proposal near the bottom of their short list. This could be exactly what we need. The idea came from a junior developer named Sarah Williams. She proposed a new security platform that addressed a growing problem in the industry, using an approach no one had tried before. It's risky, Lisa noted. But if it works, it could put us back on the map, Marcus finished. And the timeline is aggressive but doable. They selected 10 other promising ideas as well, but Sarah's would be their flagship project. The next day, Marcus invited Sarah to his office. She arrived looking nervous, a young woman in her mid-20s with bright eyes and a determined expression. "I've never been to the executive floor before," she admitted as she took a seat. "Well, get used to it," Marcus replied with a smile. "Because your security platform idea has been selected as our primary Pinnacle Rising project." Sarah's eyes widened. "Really? But I've only been here 8 months. I thought more senior people would—" "Ideas matter more than seniority here," Marcus interrupted gently. "Or at least they do now. You'll lead the development team with Lisa providing guidance as needed." "I don't know what to say," Sarah stammered. "Say you'll deliver something." "Amazing," Marcus said. "We're giving you a team of our best people and 6 weeks to create a working prototype. Can you do it?" Sarah straightened in her chair, her nervousness replaced with determination. "Yes, I can." After she left, Janet came in with the daily reports. "She reminds me of you," Janet observed. "That same spark your father always talked about." Marcus nodded. Let's hope that spark can light a fire under this company. But even as he focused on the future, Marcus couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Maxwell was still out there working against them, and the board's patience wouldn't last forever. That evening, as Marcus was preparing to leave, his phone rang. It was Gloria Chen from the board. "Marcus, we need to talk," she said, her voice serious. "Robert Maxwell has made a formal offer to buy controlling interest in Pinnacle Technologies. He's meeting with the board tomorrow." Marcus gripped the phone tighter. "He can't be serious." "He's very serious," Gloria replied, "and he has backing from Westridge Capital. Several board members seem interested in his proposal." The battle for Pinnacle was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Black CEO's son goes incognito at his inherited company. Part 4. Marcus spent the night preparing for the board meeting. He spread papers across his father's old desk at home, looking for anything that could help him fight Maxwell's takeover attempt. By morning, his eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he had a plan. "You look terrible," Janet said when he arrived at the office. "Coffee?" "The strongest you can find," Marcus replied. "When does the board meeting start?" 10 o'clock. "Maxwell is already here waiting in the small conference room." Marcus nodded. "Let him wait. I need to make a few calls first." In his office, Marcus called Lisa Chen. "I need an update on Sarah's project. How close is it to a working demo?" "She's been working around the clock," Lisa answered. "It's rough, but the core functions work." "Why?" "I need to show it to the board today. Can you bring Sarah and the prototype?" "Up to the boardroom at 10:30, there was a pause. "That's cutting it close, Marcus." "I know, but this might be our only chance." Next, Marcus called Elijah. "I need a favor. How many of the development team would be willing to speak to the board about why they stayed at Pinnacle instead of going with Maxwell?" "Most of us," Elijah said without hesitation. "We believe in what you're doing here." "Good. I need 5 of you at the boardroom at 11 His final call was to Thomas Whitfield, the CFO. "I need the latest data on our recovery trajectory. Not the conservative estimates, the real numbers based on our current momentum." Thomas hesitated. "Those projections are promising but not proven. Using them would be risky." "I'll take that risk," Marcus said firmly. "This is about the future of the company." At 9:55, Marcus took a deep breath and walked toward the boardroom. As he passed the small conference room, he saw Maxwell inside, looking confident in an expensive suit, surrounded by people in similar attire, likely representatives from Westridge Capital. Maxwell saw him and smiled coldly. Marcus gave a slight nod and continued walking. The battle lines were drawn. When Marcus entered the boardroom, the atmosphere was tense. The 12 board members sat around the large table, their expressions ranging from concern to curious. Gloria Chen gave him an encouraging nod. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus began. "I understand Robert Maxwell has made an offer to buy controlling interest in Pinnacle Technologies." "That's correct," said Harold Thompson, one of the older board members. "Westridge Capital is prepared to pay a 30% premium on current share value. Given our recent performance, many feel this is a generous offer." "I'm sure they do," Marcus replied calmly. "And I understand why this might seem attractive, especially with our last quarter's numbers. But I'd like to present an alternative view before Mr. Maxwell joins us. Marcus distributed folders to each board member. These contain 3 things. First, our projected recovery based on current initiatives. Second, preliminary patent applications for technologies being developed under our Pinnacle Rising program. And third, employee retention statistics comparing the past month to Maxwell's final quarter. The board members began reviewing the materials. As you can see, Marcus continued, while our profits dipped last quarter, our innovation pipeline is stronger than it's been in years. Employee retention has improved by 65%, and we've reduced unnecessary expenses by 28%. Harold looked skeptical. Impressive projections, but that's all they are. Projections. Maxwell has real money on the table. I understand your concern, Marcus acknowledged, which is why I've arranged for you to see more than just numbers on paper. At that moment, the door opened, and Lisa entered with Sarah Williams and 2 other developers. They wheeled in a cart with several laptops. This is Sarah Williams, Marcus introduced her. 3 weeks ago, she proposed a new security platform as part of our innovation initiative. Sarah, please show the board what you've accomplished. Sarah was clearly nervous but spoke with passion about her project. As she demonstrated the prototype, even the skeptical board members leaned forward with interest. The market for this solution is substantial, Sarah concluded. Conservative estimates suggest a potential annual revenue of $50 million within 2 years. And this is just one of 10 projects currently in development, Lisa added. All employee-generated ideas that would never have seen the light of day under previous management. As Sarah and her team packed up, Elijah and 4 other developers entered. One by one, they spoke about why they had chosen to stay at Pinnacle despite offers from Maxwell to join his new company. I've worked here for 12 years, Elijah said. Under William Johnson, this company valued people and innovation equally. That spirit disappeared when Maxwell took over my department. Now, under Marcus, it's returning. That's worth more than a bigger paycheck. By the time Robert Maxwell was invited into the boardroom at 11:30, the mood had shifted. He entered confidently, flanked by 3 Westridge Capital representatives. Good morning, Maxwell said smoothly. I trust you've had time to review our offer. We have, Gloria Chen replied. We've also been reviewing Marcus Johnson's vision for Pinnacle's future. Maxwell's smile didn't waver. Vision is wonderful, but results matter more. Under my leadership, Pinnacle saw record profits. Since my departure, those numbers have fallen significantly. Short-term gains at the expense of long-term health, Marcus countered. You pushed our people to the breaking point, took credit for their ideas, and created a culture of fear. Business isn't about making friends, Maxwell said dismissively. It's about results, and my methods get results. Your methods are unsustainable, Marcus replied. And the board has seen evidence of that today. Harold Thompson cleared his throat. Mr. Maxwell, your offer is substantial, but we have concerns about your long-term strategy. Would you care to address them? For the next hour, Maxwell presented his vision for Pinnacle's future. It focused heavily on cost-cutting, aggressive market expansion, and what he called operational efficiency, which Marcus recognized as code for pushing employees even harder. When Maxwell finished, Gloria asked Marcus if he had any final comments. Just this, Marcus said, standing to address the board. My father built Pinnacle on a simple principle: respect for people and their ideas. That approach made this company an industry leader for 20 years. Robert Maxwell abandoned that principle, and while it produced short-term gains, it did long-term damage. Marcus looked each board member in the eye as he continued. I'm offering a return to what made Pinnacle great, but with a clear vision for the future. The choice is yours. Sell to someone who sees this company as nothing but numbers on a spreadsheet, or stand with me and build something that will last. The room fell silent. Finally, Gloria spoke. I think we're ready to vote. 2 hours later, Marcus stood at the window in his office, looking out at the city below. The door opened, and Janet entered with a smile. The paperwork is done, she said. The board rejected Maxwell's offer unanimously. Marcus let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for days. Thank you, Janet, for everything. Don't thank me. You earned this win. She paused. Your father would be proud. As Janet left, Marcus's phone rang. It was Thomas Whitfield. Maxwell just made an announcement, the CFO said. He's founding a direct competitor called Nova Tech. He's promising to revolutionize the industry and claims he's already poached some of our clients. Marcus wasn't surprised. He won't give up easily. No, Thomas agreed. This isn't over. Maybe not, Marcus said. But at least now we're fighting on our terms, not his. As he hung up, Marcus looked at his father's photo on the desk. The battle for Pinnacle's future had been won, but the war with Robert Maxwell was just beginning, and Marcus Johnson was ready for it. 6 months had passed since the board rejected Maxwell's takeover attempt. Pinnacle Technologies was growing stronger each day. Sarah's security platform, now called Guardian, had launched to great reviews. 3 more projects from the Pinnacle Rising initiative were close to release. The company's stock price had climbed steadily, and employee satisfaction was at an all-time high. But Robert Maxwell remained a constant threat. His new company, Nova Tech, was aggressively pursuing Pinnacle's clients and trying to hire away their best talent. Maxwell had also started a whisper campaign in the industry, suggesting that Pinnacle's products were outdated and that Marcus was riding on his father's reputation. He's relentless, Lisa Chen said during their weekly leadership meeting. 2 more clients are considering switching to Nova Tech. Marcus nodded, taking in the information. What's his pitch to them? Lower prices and faster delivery, Thomas Eway. Whitfield replied, he's promising customized solutions in half the time we quote. That's impossible unless they're cutting corners on quality, Elijah pointed out. He had recently been promoted to Director of Development. Clients won't know that until it's too late, Marcus said. By then, they'll be locked into contracts. Though room fell silent as everyone considered the situation. We need to find out exactly what Maxwell is promising, Marcus finally said, and how he plans to deliver it. Lisa looked concerned. Are you suggesting industrial espionage? No, Marcus replied quickly. Nothing illegal, but perhaps it's time for someone to go undercover again. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Not me this time, Marcus clarified with a small smile. I think Maxwell might recognize me, but we need someone he's never met. All eyes turned to Sarah Williams, who had joined the leadership team after the success of Guardian. You want me to spy on Nova Tech? Sarah asked, her eyes wide. Not spy, Marcus corrected. Just gather public information. Maxwell is holding a tech showcase next week for potential clients. Anyone can register. We need to know what he's planning. Sarah nodded slowly. I can do that. The following week, Sarah attended Nova Tech's showcase wearing glasses and with her hair styled differently. She carried a tablet and wore a name badge that identified her as Emily Chen, Meridian Solutions, a small consulting firm that was actually a Pinnacle client. The event was held in a luxurious hotel ballroom. Nearly 100 people mingled, drinking champagne and examining displays of Nova Tech's products. Robert Maxwell stood in the center of it all, confidently shaking hands and charming potential clients. Sarah moved carefully through the crowd, taking notes and photos of the product displays. Nothing seemed particularly innovative until she reached the final display. Her heart sank as she studied the sleek interface on the screen. The product was called Sentinel, and it was nearly identical to a project Pinnacle was developing. In secret, their next big security platform that would build on Guardian's success. Impressive, isn't it? Sarah nearly jumped at the voice. Robert Maxwell himself stood beside her, smiling proudly at the display. Very, she managed to say, hoping he wouldn't look too closely at her face. When will it be available? We're taking pre-orders now with delivery in 3 months, Maxwell replied, faster than anyone else in the industry could manage. He extended his hand. Robert Maxwell, CEO. Emily Chen, Sarah said, shaking his hand briefly. How did you develop it so quickly? Maxwell's smile widened. Let's just say we have insider knowledge of where the industry is heading. A cold feeling settled in Sarah's stomach. There was only one way Novatech could have created something so similar to Pinnacle's unreleased product. They had a leak. Someone inside Pinnacle was feeding information to Maxwell. "If you'll excuse me," Sarah said, "I need to make a call." She hurried out of the ballroom and immediately called Marcus. "We have a serious problem," she told him. "Maxwell is developing a product almost identical to Project Horizon. He has to have inside information." There was a long pause before Marcus responded. "Get back here as soon as you can. Don't talk to anyone else about this." When Sarah returned to Pinnacle, she found Marcus in the conference room with Lisa, Thomas, Elijah, and Janet. The atmosphere was tense. "Show them what you found," Marcus said. Sarah connected her tablet to the display screen and showed the photos and notes she had taken at the showcase. When she reached the images of Sentinel, Elijah cursed under his breath. "It's practically identical to Horizon," he said. "Same interface design, same core functions. The only differences are cosmetic." "We have a mole," Marcus said, his voice hard. "Someone with access to the Horizon project is feeding information to Maxwell." "But who?" Lisa asked. "Only 15 people have full access to Horizon." 17, Thomas corrected. "The 15 team members plus Marcus and myself. We need to identify the leak without tipping them off," Marcus said. "If they realize we're investigating, they'll warn Maxwell and destroy any evidence." For the next week, Marcus and his trusted inner circle conducted a careful investigation. They reviewed access logs, checked email records, and monitored network traffic. Finally, they found their answer. "It's Kevin Zhao," Elijah said, placing a folder in front of Marcus. "He's been sending encrypted files to an outside server every Thursday night for the past 2 months. Kevin was a senior developer who had been with Pinnacle for 5 years. He had access to all the Horizon specifications." "Why would he do this?" Sarah asked. "He seemed so loyal." "Money, probably," Thomas said. "Maxwell can afford to pay well for that kind of information." Marcus closed the folder. "Bring him to my office. Don't tell him why." Kevin Zhao sat nervously across from Marcus, his eyes darting around the room. Janet stood by the door, and Elijah leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "Kevin," Marcus began calmly, "you've been with Pinnacle for 5 years. My father hired you personally, didn't he?" Kevin nodded. "Yes. Mr. Johnson gave me my first job out of college. And yet, every Thursday night for the past 2 months, you've been sending confidential information about Project Horizon to Novatech." Marcus pushed the folder across the desk. "We have proof." The color drained from Kevin's face. He didn't even open the folder. I can explain," he stammered. "Please, do," Marcus said, his voice still eerily calm. "Maxwell contacted me 3 months ago," Kevin said, his words tumbling out. "He said he knew I was responsible for the encryption system in Horizon, but that I wasn't getting proper credit or compensation. He offered triple my salary, plus a signing bonus." "But you didn't leave Pinnacle," Elijah noted. "Maxwell said I was more valuable to him here," Kevin admitted. "He wanted regular updates on Horizon's development. Once they launched their version first, he would hire me officially." Marcus studied Kevin's face. "Did you consider what would happen to your colleagues, to the people who trusted you?" Kevin looked down at his hands. "I told myself it was just business, that no one would really get hurt." "But people would get hurt," Marcus said. "The company would suffer. People might lose their jobs if Pinnacle failed because of Novatech's stolen product." Tears welled in Kevin's eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't think it through. Maxwell can be very persuasive." "Yes, he can," Marcus agreed. "I've experienced that myself." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. When he turned back, his expression was resolute. "Here's what's going to happen, Kevin. You're going to help us turn this around." 2 weeks later, Robert Maxwell stood on stage at Novatech's product launch event. Hundreds of industry leaders and potential clients filled the audience. Behind him, a large screen displayed the Sentinel security platform. "Today, Novatech changes the game," Maxwell announced proudly. "Sentinel represents the future of cybersecurity. Nothing else on the market comes close. He demonstrated the platform's features to appreciative murmurs from the crowd. As the presentation concluded, Maxwell smiled confidently. We're now taking orders with delivery in 3 months as promised. Any questions? A man stood up in the back of the room. I have one. The crowd turned to see Marcus Johnson walking down the center aisle. Mr. Johnson, Maxwell said, his smile faltering slightly. I'm surprised to see you here. I wouldn't miss it, Marcus replied, especially since you're launching a product based on stolen information from Pinnacle Technologies. A murmur ran through the crowd. That's a serious accusation, Maxwell said, his voice hardening. And completely false. Is it? Marcus asked. He nodded to someone at the side of the room. Kevin Zhao walked onto the stage, looking nervous but determined. The crowd grew quiet. My name is Kevin Zhao, he said into the microphone. I'm a senior developer at Pinnacle Technologies. For the past 2 months, I've been providing Mr. Maxwell with confidential information about Pinnacle's next security platform. The murmuring in the room grew louder. What's more, Kevin continued, the information I provided contained deliberate flaws that Mr. Maxwell didn't catch because he was in too much of a hurry to beat Pinnacle to market. Maxwell's face had turned red with anger. This is absurd. Get him off my stage. But the damage was done. Journalists were already typing frantically on their phones. Potential clients were standing up to leave. By the way, Marcus called out. As security approached Kevin, Pinnacle's actual next-generation platform launches tomorrow, without the flaws that Sentinel has. He handed business cards to Pieper.